Okay. Well, we'll just get started. And if there's any other additional technical, I'm hoping you guys can be able to see the screen fine. Uh, and if you have any questions, I'll try to get to them. Okay. But the whole point of this, webinar is, trying to help out if you have a project that you're looking for and you don't know how to start, as far as where to go, what to do, to hire, right person or right team. That's the whole point of this webinar. So we're going to go through, quite a few different points, and we're going to hit some things that are basic, the basics about software development, just to make sure, I know a lot of business owners, they don't know exactly, a lot of the technology or, terminology. So we're not going to hit, a bunch of stuff. This is not going to be a technical webinar whatsoever, as far as, we're going to hit, different things as far as languages, that possibly you could use. But more than anything, this is set up for, somebody that's, looking for any type of project, and they want to make sure that they go through the right process, so they're getting the right team and they don't have any issues. Okay, so we're going to go over, how to develop, a good brief that's going to be able to get you, the best quote possible. And when I say the best quote, I'm not, necessarily, the cheapest price. I'm just saying, that you're going to be able to develop something that's going to attract the right people and give them all the information that they need, so they're able to, quote you, exactly what you have, and you don't have really any surprises down the road. Where you can look for different software developers, different platforms, different, options, how to verify that you're getting the right developer, which is, one of the things. It's obviously super important. You want to, as you go through your due diligence of looking for different programmers, one of the most important things is obviously, do I have, the right person, the right team, and how can you, even before you hire them, go through a couple steps to make sure that, this is definitely going to, the person or the team that I know is going to be able to follow through. And we're also going to go into some of the biggest pitfalls that, we've seen, that people fall into, and, obviously how you can avoid those. Okay. So basically this webinar is set up mainly for, entrepreneurs that are looking for, software development, whether that be anywhere for anything from, app development, web application development, any, could be, something, more high tech, that you're looking for, internally. Also, if you are, somebody that runs an IT team, this will definitely help you out, and especially if you're looking for, different new avenues where you can look for, and to be able to, ensure that you're going through the right process as you're finding the right person for your team. Okay, so just to give a quick, information. Obviously, software development, especially since the pandemic has come in, to play. It's got a huge demand to it. It's one of the biggest, growth industries that, exist out there. So, what we're covering, it's super important, because software development, it can help automate your business. It can help, the right software development can, make a huge impact on, your business, your company, whatever. But with such a high demand, and there's actually going to be a, shortfall of programmers. I think they're, expecting by the year 2023. So you got to be good at, if you have any project, you got to be really good at, making sure you're finding the right person. I too many times, we've seen people that, they've got a project and they go out there and one, they never even, get it off the ground, or another, they go through and they hire, it might be not be even a bad programmer, but they hire the wrong person for the job. So, as there's creating more demand and more demand for software developers, that basically means if you have any project that you need developed, there's going to be more competition, and the software developers, they're gonna obviously have more options to look at. So if you do it the right way, you can definitely get the right person, the right team, and at the end of the day, get the project on time that you're looking to develop. Okay. So at the end of this, our whole goal is that you're going to be able to know exactly how to create, I guess what we would call a brief, get all the information that you need to be able to present to, a bunch of different options. So you can get quotes back, and, and have a definite process where you can do due diligence to make sure that the team that you're actually hiring is the right team for this person. And again, like I said, make sure you avoid some of these big pitfalls. The software industry is it's huge, and there's so many different options out there, and most people that are whether it be a custom e-commerce site or a web application, the people that are driving the software industry, they're not the big software, they don't understand, okay, I know what I want, I know what I need, but they definitely don't necessarily know exactly, okay, well, what goes on, how does it work? So we want to make sure that you've got all that information, so by the end, with any project you have, you feel comfortable that you're going to be able to go out there and find the right people. Okay, so why are we sharing this information? Just to give you a quick background, I am not a technical guy. I'm not a coder. Okay, you could ask me. I think I've done maybe a small amount of what they call like CSS on WordPress sites, but I am far from being an expert programmer. Yeah, Codebay, the company that I'm a partner in, actually started off as I was a client. I'm more in the marketing and advertising space, and I had lots of clients that needed development, whether it be from very complex e-commerce sites to web applications, SaaS products. And I had the big issue where I've worked with so many different programmers throughout the time, and always having headaches of not getting it on time, not understanding what exactly we were looking for. And I just happened to find a great team, and the opportunity to be part of the form part of the company. So I come at this from the side of, I would say, the client. I knew nothing about programming. I thought all programmers were basically the same, and I didn't understand anything about front end, back end, and there's obviously a lot more technical things that come into it, but I didn't get any of that stuff. And I just knew that these guys give me quote, and then it doesn't get there on time, and it doesn't get there in inside budget, and just a bunch of different frustrations that made me not even want to recommend, or not even want to move forward with clients, which I knew there were, SaaS products or anything that would definitely help out their business, but it was just, so frustrating to try to, find, the right person. So, that's, kind of why, I got into, being a partner at Codebay, because I found they were doing the things the right way. I didn't know how, I didn't know exactly what they were doing, but I just knew that, anytime that I got, a budget from these guys and a timeline from these guys, they were doing it the right way. And so as the relationship kept, developing, and I had the opportunity to come in, I started to understand. I'm still not, definitely not the technical guy, but I started to understand even more, how that, how they were doing things different. And, we wanted to, share this information. So, whether whoever you're going to work with, um, there's a definite process that you can go through that'll make sure that you can avoid 99% of the big, mistakes or headaches, because a lot of times, are really, I mean, it comes down to, you're developing a relationship, and especially in software development, it's a long-term relationship. It's not something that's going to basically be, one day to the other. So, you want to make sure you definitely find, the right person. Okay. So starting off, even before we get into basically, the teaching part, when we're going over how to develop a brief and how to verify, this is something, we do with, all of our clients when they come in, is, the first question you need to ask yourself is, do you really need software development? Um, because a lot of times, you might go to like a software developer and say, yeah, can you do this? I want this. And, just like any software developer, they're basically going to say, yeah, sure, we can definitely do it. And, they're a business. They want to sell their service. But there's so much software development out there that already exists, that a lot of times you might not need as big of a project or as big as a development you might think. I'm not saying it's always the case. There's, for example, a client of ours that they needed, it was for a web application, and they needed a I kind of like, this kind of like a Zoom with their clientele, and they, wanted to basically have it, on their platform, and, be in control of the entire thing. And, we basically said, okay, well, yes, can we develop it? Of course we can develop it. But, it's already exists. Zoom already exists. Google Hangouts already exist. Now, why do you want it? Is it something, is there like a custom functionality that you need that doesn't, exist out there? A lot of times, and especially this, comes down, for business owners, when you're looking at, okay, I want a website or an e-commerce, which is very, popular right now. There's already platforms out there, whether they be the WordPresses, um, Shopify's, and a lot of the functionality, even if it might be, special functionality that you need, they're plugins developed for these things. It's and it's gonna be much quicker for you to get to market and test something if you know that, that thing already exists. So, if you're just looking for like a simple WordPress, site where it's just a presentation of what you do, you don't even need a developer. There's a lot of designers out there that, can do simple WordPress sites, and it shouldn't cost that much at all. But if you're looking for something, those are the basic two big questions you want to ask yourself is, okay, do I need something custom? And
and do a little work before you even, jump in with, looking at different prospects. We had another, client that his brief was fantastic. It was huge, and he was, asking certain questions. What about this? Coding is this? I want this, but I found this this program. Would this be something that we could attach? And would it save time? Would it save money? There's a lot of times what you want to be able to do is get as quick as you possibly can to the minimum viable product. So a lot of times there's stuff out there that exists. So it just comes down to, Googling, looking for plugins, looking for softwares that already exist. And a lot of these things, they can be used and attached to, the other stuff. And then down the road, if, again, do you want to own it? Is it something that, okay, well, I want to own, the users. I want to make sure that, I'm controlling, whether it be for security issues, these users, whatever. Those are basically the two questions I would ask even before you say, okay, well, yeah, let me go out there and just tell somebody, this is what I need. Can you do it? Well, yeah, they're probably going to say that they can do it. But before, you even go down that road, try to do a little due diligence and investigation and find out, what actually already exists out there. Because there's a lot of, coding and open source programs that it can save you a lot of time and a lot of money to get to the product you want. And especially, to test out the market or test out and figure out different bugs, or when somebody's actually using it, that's the biggest time when you're going to find out what things are working and what things are not. Now, okay, so all right. uh, Now this is something that is important. Again, I said we're going to go overcome some kind of basics about software programming. And this is in this slide we're basically it's software programming, which I didn't understand. Like I said before, I thought it was okay. You're a programmer, you're a coder. They're basically all the same. They all just fall into a big bucket of hey, they're programmers. But just like the doctors, they're specialists. Okay, so the one of the things you definitely need to answer is, okay, if I have a heart condition, I obviously want to go to the cardiologist. Okay, and is so if you can understand a little bit more about and we'll talk a little bit more about this, the different languages and how the programmers are classified. But just as a basics, you you need to understand that most programmers are going to specialize in something. Okay, now there are ones that are kind of like your general doctors, which they call them full stack, and they're more generalists. But depending on your product, one of the biggest wins you can have is if you understand really who you're looking for. Because if you basically go to somebody and say, hey, can you do this? Well, if they're a programmer, they can probably figure it out. We had an issue with one of our clients that came to us, but they were already working with another firm. And the big issue there was it was actually taking twice as long as what the original programming firm said it was going to take. And it wasn't that the programmers, we came in basically just as a project managing, um, yeah, just to help out and organize and make sure that the timelines are uh, are being reached. And we found out it wasn't an issue that the programmers are bad, but this agency, but said, hey, why don't we do it in this language and this language? And the only reason they offered those languages is because they wanted to learn them. So basically, the client at the end of the day was, and they weren't even the best languages for what the client needed. So you need to make sure you have a little bit of understanding, or there's, certain things that we're going to go through to make sure that you're going to be able to ask them, okay, why are you recommending this versus this? Because if you, just like if you're the doctor, you might get, an excellent doctor, but you might be overpaying because, this person is overqualified, or they're not a specialist in exactly what you need. So it's basically, trying to, they're going to have to go through a learning curve to figure things out. Now, okay, so how are the basically, software developers, in generally, categorized? Okay, it's from the different types of platforms that they build on, whether it be mobile, desktop, web. What are the different languages that they use? There's actually over 700 programming languages, which is our interesting information from this webinar. There's probably only about 12 that are the most commonly used, but people specialize. It's just like a language. Like I live in Mexico, lived here for 18 years. Okay, I could speak Spanish and I could speak English, but if you're gonna ask me what am I going to specialize in? Well, it's probably going to be more English than Spanish, but I could do both. But if you're going to ask me, okay, could you do it in Portuguese, or could you speak? Yeah, after probably a while, it's pretty close to Spanish. I could probably learn it. So those are most programmers are going to specialize in one, two, and then you'll find some of the couple outliers that'll be able to write in 8 or 9 languages. And then, they're categorized by their experience. Okay, so you have anywhere from junior, middle, and senior. And we'll go through, junior is basically, there's somebody that's got, anywhere from 0 to 2 years experience. Middle is, anywhere from, like 2 to 5. And then, senior is like, 5 plus. So obviously, the more experience that they have, that's definitely going to be as well, the different prices that you can expect to pay. Now, the other thing that is important when thinking about, who are the software, development, the person that you're looking for is software is basically kind of like building a house. And this is another thing that I didn't, when I first came into this, I didn't understand. I'm like, okay, well, I got one guy, he's going to develop the whole thing, for me. But when developing, and if we just want to take, an example like a web application, there's the front end. Okay, so there's the front end, which comes down to design. What's the user experience? And then, there's the actual coding for the front end. How is it, that has to be coded. How's that thing going to look? And then there's the back end. How are things connected? What's the structure? All those are different types of specialties. And then on top of that, it's kind of like, the constructor. Okay, so you have an architect, which his job is to basically set the plan. Okay, this is the plan, how it, the end is going to look. And then you've got the constructor, who's basically, his job is to say, okay, well, I'm going to need, this type of electricians, these type of plumbers. It's the exact same thing in coding. So one of the other things that, is important, depending on how big your project is, you're probably better off trying to find specialists for different things. So not just trying to figure, okay, one guy, could he do everything from start to finish? Again, yes, he probably could, but it's going to be much more beneficial to you to say, okay, well, before I even start, let me find, okay, somebody that's going to be able to do the UX and the UI. Okay, what's the overall feel, look going to be like? Then from there, okay, let me find that constructor, that person that can, organize the entire plan. Okay, so what are the steps? What's, the time frame? And then, what am I going to need? What are the different, programmers that I'm going to need? And that way you can basically say, okay, well, then I can go out and look for those different people that I'm going to need. So I'm getting the best person for the job. Again, just like anything, specialist is going to cost more. at the end of the day, you're going to get a much better product, and you're going to get it in a much better time frame. Okay, so skills and languages. Now, this is something, if you want, you can, at the end, we'll share our email. If you want any of this, information, we're more than happy to, to send it off. And these are, just kind of basic, guidelines. So if you have like a web application, there's different, depending on if it's front end or back end, what are the different languages that are recommended, whether it be .NET, Python, PHP, Java, JavaScript, React. So that way, you can have like an idea. So when you go to somebody, definitely you want to be asking, what is the language you're going to be using? And there's certain ones that, depending, it's not like there's universally say one language is the one to use for any part of any project, but there's certain ones that are much more recommended. Why? Because they're easier to code, they're faster to code, depending on what it is. So there's, again, like I said, there's probably about 12 different ones that are going to be the main one. And depending on exactly what it is you're trying to build, you definitely want to make sure that the person is going to be coding specifically in that language. Now, another thing to add, there's certain languages that become kind of the hot languages. Like one of them is right now React. Okay, hot languages that a lot of people are wanting, that drives up demand. And more demand, higher price you're going to basically be paying. And then there's certain languages that are kind of dead languages. They're not even being used. So you definitely want to understand or have a basics about this, because most of the time on a software project, at the end of it, you're going to need some maintenance, or you're going to want to keep out building different features. So you definitely want to be thinking about not just, okay, what is it going to cost me to build the project, but what is going to be in the best my best interest for long term. So if I need to pull in different people, it's going to be a common language that I know I can find different people, and it's not going to be something where, well, there's only a handful, or it's in such high demand that you're going to be paying an arm and a leg to basically get that get the person that you're looking for. Okay, so we're going to basically go through how first part is how to actually come up with a brief, okay, of your project needs. So there's basically two things in like a good brief. You want to go through requirements, you want to go through functionalities. So in requirements, this is super important. It's fill out a long document for all these different people that when you send it out there, and you want to basically show it to different ones. What's the purpose of the application? Okay, this right here is one thing I've an experience from dealing with different clients that I found a lot of miss. I don't know if they're afraid to share a whole bunch of information about this, for the fear of hey, well, somebody else is going to take my idea and they're going to run with it. But you definitely want a team that's going to buy into your idea. Okay, and if you get the right team, they're going to be able to make a lot of suggestions, because they're in the day-to-day, and they've coded a bunch of different stuff. If they understand what your overall purpose of this thing is. Okay, so definitely fill out a description. What are you trying to achieve with this? Whether it be again web application and e-commerce, any certain thing. The more specific that you can be with the right team, that's going to give them all the information that they, or a basis of where is this thing going. There might be certain functionalities on there where they say, well, we can probably shortcut this by doing this, because at the end of the day, it doesn't fall into the whole scope of, or the overall objective of whatever you're trying to achieve. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, second, set up a budget, a timeline. Um, when do you need this by? Okay, because this the timeline, it um, it's basically going to be able to tell the software developers, okay, so what am I willing, what do I have to play with? What are the needs of this client? Timelines, you know, they change if they're never set, if they're and a lot of times, the right software development team or person is going to be a realistic, with you. If you say, okay, I want all this stuff done in 3 months, well, can it be done? It's not a definite yes. It's kind of, one of the conversations, which I didn't understand this, that I had with one of my partners. I'm like, well, the client wants it done in 2 months. And, our proposal was in, I think it was like, 4 months, and with a team of like 2 or 3 people. I'm like, well, he wants it done in 2 months. Why don't you just throw, you know, 6 people on there? And according to my great, my simple basic math, I'm like, that's just going to have the time and client's happy. And he used the analogy of, a pregnancy, you can't make it go faster. So basically, it just, well, it was in Spanish, so maybe it sounded better in Spanish. But the idea was there's certain things that are going to be waiting on somebody else. So it's not, just throwing more hands on deck that you're going to be able to get things done quicker. But you definitely want to, express what your goal is for a timeline, with for the agency or the person you're going to want to work with. Because if you just keep it open, well, how long is this going to take to build? What is going to happen is they're going to work off of their time frame. Or they're going to say, okay, well, I've got all these different projects, so I can give them, this time frame, and it works within, my schedule of working on different clients. But you need to basically set this, set the expectations right from the start. So, hey, like I would, like it done, or I need it done, in this time, or, these are basically, my 2 options. So can you come up with proposals, for each? Because, shortening the time frame, it's not a guarantee that it's going to be able to get done. And a lot of times, it might just add extra costs on there that you don't need. And definitely set a budget. You know, give them an idea, what are you looking to spend? Any good agency, they're going to come back and they're going to let you know, okay, well, more or less it's basically going to be able to, it's going to cost, this much. But, so that way you at least have, idea of, I'm willing to pay this. And, it's not necessarily, something that you have to share, in the brief of, this is what I'm going to be spending. But, same thing as, building a house, you definitely want to make sure, okay, this is our budget and we're willing to basically spend this. So anything below that, we're happy with. And that way you don't have any surprises where you get to a certain point of building a software and you're like, okay, well, like building a house, we ran out of money and the house is not going to get finished. Okay. So after that, you want to write off, okay, what is exactly, where does this thing need to live? Okay. So is it going to be, on a web application? Is it going to be in a mobile? Is it going to be in a desktop? That stuff, is it going to be multiple of those? Like, get into the technical part of what are the different things, that where this thing needs to be, because that's basically going to give them the idea of, okay, so what are the different developers that I need? What are the different languages that I need? Now, the next thing you want to do is, what are the technologies? Okay. Does it need to connect with anything? Okay. Is there anything internally? Are there other softwares that you want this thing to piggyback off of? Or they're going to have to connect to? How is, how is it basically going to be, from start to finish, for the user? Um, all these, these different things are going to be, all the information that they're going to need. So that way you don't, they don't come up with any surprises, because at the end of the day, like, we as agencies, we want to give you guys the best proposal. And if something, comes up and says, okay, well, we need to connect to this and it doesn't have an API and there's no possible way, well, that can throw, a lot of issues in there that at the end of the day, could have been avoided by just being, completely having all the information up front. Okay. Now, next thing you want to be asking is, who's going to use the software and how do you want them to use it? Okay. So this is basically thinking about it on the user side. Okay. So what is, the actual user, what do they need to do? Okay. We're going to get into, you want to go through features and stuff, but try to be as detailed as you possibly can to, okay, who is that user? Is it, somebody that has some technical background that it can understand? Is it somebody that doesn't have any technical background? One of the clients we have, they're working, with an end user that has very little technical background. And I guess their sub user would be kids. So that basically has to come into play when you go through, okay, how is it designed? What are different applications? What are different programs that this user is already used to using? And that gives you a great idea, because at the end of the day, you need this thing to be able to, be as simple. Great software is just, simple, that, somebody already understands, how to use it. Last thing you want is somebody that has to go through like, a big learning curve, as far as, okay, you have to do a whole bunch of, tutorial videos and stuff like that. Those aren't the programs that are going to be sticky, that are going to get, the best usage, which is at the end of the day, the whole reason why you're going to be building this thing. Okay. And so, lastly, as far as requirements, list out what the security requirements are. Okay. If you don't necessarily, know this part, definitely, reach out to, someone that, understand this. But obviously, if you're going to be capturing data, there are, you know, certain requirements depending on your state, depending on your country, that you have to follow. So you need to list out all that stuff, because at the end of the day, like, a software developer is going to build what you ask them to build. And they're not, a lot of times, as a client, you're thinking, okay, well, they should know that, I'm here and this is the way that it should be built. They don't know that stuff. All they're doing is basically, they're great at coding. So you need to be, as specific as you possibly can. Okay, I need this to, be encrypted information as it's being passed off, and how good, yeah, what is the level that you're going to be able to, that you're going to need, the payment services, all that's different stuff is definitely stuff that you want to put inside of this brief. Okay, so functionalities. So now jumping to the next thing is, now is we want to get down to, okay, what exactly do you need? Okay. And so functionalities is kind of like, we put on a little example, right here. Okay, so we need to log in. As a user, I need to log in to the application with Facebook and email. Sign up. As a user, I need to create an account. I need to have a social sign in. So it can just be simple as listing out all that stuff. Okay, we need a login, we need to sign up, we need a landing dashboard, we need a social share, and exactly what each one of those functionalities, a basic description of what it has to do. Now, if you can screenshot, this is super, recommendable, is if you already have, if there's something already out there that exists that you like, or certain parts of it that you like, share those things with them. Like, hey, I like how this works. I like how that works. Probably The biggest error that, we've seen, when, certain, um, yeah, I guess relationships or, working with different agencies, when it doesn't work, it comes down to communication. And the more specific that you can be, the quicker they're going to get it done and the better they're going to get it done. Everybody has their own idea of or their interpretation of whatever it is that you said. So make sure that you're going through and you're being as specific as visual as you possibly can. So, list every single thing out. Now, after that, next thing you should definitely do is, what is your minimum viable product? Okay. What are the minimum things that you need in order to make this thing, whatever the project you have, to make it viable, to make it work? Now, this is something that I've, definitely learned, across time is, um, things, especially when it comes to software, they change. There's, um, once people start using it, you're like, well, they're not using it how I want them to, or there's certain parts of it that they're using more, which I didn't, expect, or there's features that people are looking for that that we didn't think about. So a lot of those things change, but for us, when we're, with a client, a lot of times when you have this, new idea, you try to put on um, all the different features that you could possibly think of. And I'll tell you from experience, it's not the most recommended thing. Like, think about the basics. How can you just get it in front of people as quick as you possibly can? Because that, honestly, it's the best feedback that you're going to possibly get. So even though you might have your whole, I guess, Santa Claus Christmas wish list, keep that list. But definitely inside of this brief, explain to them, this is the minimum. This is what I need in order to get this thing out. Because the quicker you can get it out, get it in front of whoever is going to be your final user, is going to be so much more beneficial for you to really understand, how is this thing actually working. And then a lot of times it's happens multiple, almost in every single case, is a lot of these extra features that they were looking at, they change, or they don't even need them anymore. So don't try to say, okay, well, yeah, we need to keep on adding and we need to make all this stuff. Now start with the exact basics and saying, okay, so I want you to basically think about this, and what's the time frame for us to get to the minimal viable product. And then the relationship will probably continue, but it's off of based off of data that you're getting back from these users. Okay, so after that, definitely list out the priorities. Okay, what is the most important for you to have, and list them in order. Now, again, this a great team will definitely help you out, and they'll be able to, give you an idea of the structure. It's kind of like like, again, like building a house. Like, you definitely want to have somebody that's going to say, okay, well, what's the plan? What are the the milestones? What's the plan? But you want to basically be the person that's pushing all the different functionalities and the priorities in there. You're the person that knows it. So if you don't explain that to them, you might get back where, okay, well, they're building off certain things and they're holding off. Which we've seen is, they hold off on probably a couple of things that are going to be the most challenging, and um, they're building a bunch of the easier functionality. But then when it gets to the challenging part, just basically everything just slows down completely. And that was probably the most important. That was probably the thing they should have tackled first. Okay, so, well, before we get into basically where to look for developers, again, develop a brief. Okay, so you definitely want a full document that is hitting on, what are the objections or the objectives? I'm sorry. What is your overall goal for this thing? Okay. Explain it, as much detail. This is the functionalities, and definitely try to put on there, whether it be screenshots or links to different parts. Okay. Now we'll jump in, as well after this. How do we know you're finding the right guy? But where are different places you can look for developers? Okay. Now there's obviously a lot of freelance platforms. TopTal, is one that they only they actually filter out. They are going for, we have no affiliation with TopTal, or Freelancer or Upwork or any of these different ones. And that's where there are. A lot of them are there. You're going to find probably more of freelancers. So if you want to basically put together your different team, TopTal does a more of a filter job. So their their job is to make sure they do a little bit of the due diligence for you, so they only have the best developers in different things. Obviously you're going to pay more. And then the freelancers, the Upworks, depending on the level of job that you're looking for. If it's something smaller, those are different places that you can that post your jobs, and have people from all over the world looking bidding on that job. Now, one thing to basically cover here is this is a question that comes up a lot, is benefits or pros cons of a freelancer or looking for a development team. Both of them have their definite pros and cons. Like freelancers, and we have used freelancers. You normally, in my experience, you normally want to basically be trying to find a freelancer if it's for like a smaller and a specific start to finish job, where you're not necessarily going to need that person down the road. um, Coding is something that is even though there's different languages, it's something that's kind of unique to every single person. So one of the issues that can comes up a lot is freelancers, if it's something that's maybe too long, they might disappear. A lot of times freelancers, because that's what they need to do, is they need to be working on many different projects, as you're not necessarily getting all of their time. They're going to be working on 2 to 3 different things at one time. So definitely they're fantastic. These platforms are awesome, because that's where a lot, you're going to be able to find a whole bunch of different people. But make sure you understand, or you're thinking about, okay, what is the overall goal? Do I need somebody that is I'm going to have a contact with, and they can replace one programmer if they need to. Okay, so definitely go out there and contact the professional agencies. Again, which one is going to be more expensive, less expensive? Go out and ask a bunch of different ones, but definitely go out there, look at agencies, show them your brief, and see basically what they come back with. Now there's the entire range of scope of, as far as working with an agency. Some of them, they will just come back with a real quick, hey, it might cost more or less this, because going into the whole investigation, quotation part for them it's a lot of work. So some of them will actually charge for that. But if it's something you're serious about, like don't be afraid if you got to throw a little bit of money behind that. Or if you have somebody that you already know, they can say, okay, well what are the that's in this field, or what are the things that I need to be looking out for, but just to kind of start weeding out the field. Online communities, ask in Quora, ask in Stack Overflow. Like if you're an entrepreneur, like go in the different forums or the different groups, on Facebook. Ask people, hey, have you used, a software developer or a team? Who do you have that you can recommend? Recommendations are probably, the number one thing. You definitely want to have, again, that team that you can trust, that that is going to be there for you, and at the end of the day, it's going to be able to deliver, what they promised on. Okay, so, and then, again, there's platforms for hiring, Clutch, Good Firms. Check those out. Those have got ratings on, different options. But, what I would definitely do is if you're going out there and you have a project, probably get anywhere from, 4 to 6 quotes. Okay, reach out, to at least 4 different companies, share them your brief and see what comes back. Now, how can you verify that you're going to get the right developer? The whole brief process, if you do it right and you get the right information, that should guarantee that you're going to get a correct quote. Okay, now when I say quote, there's different ways that in the software industry that you can get quotes. Some will quote it as a project. Okay, so overall, start to finish, this is what it's going to cost. At Codebay, we do it, a little bit different, where, we give, all of our clients a general, timeline off of, the brief that they gave us and a general cost, but we do it more on, I guess, basically you're renting full time these programmers. So, they're working 100%, with you. And if you need to basically be changing stuff, you can definitely change stuff, because at the end of the day, if it goes quicker, that's your decision. If if you want to keep on adding stuff, that's definitely your decision as well. But that way you can, reach out to, a couple of these different, options. So you can have, a general idea, okay, more or less it's going to be, this cost and this time frame. If somebody's coming out, at a much higher cost, question them why. Okay, so now getting into how to guarantee that before you say yes, let's go, what are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you're getting the right person? Okay, one of the things that you definitely want to do, and this is something after I would do this, you could put it in part of your brief, or after you get the quotation back. But definitely ask them, like I was talking about before, is what are some existing softwares, plugins, open source things that can help my project to get it done faster, that can make it cheaper. Again, there's so many things out there that already exist, and you should definitely have them. Okay, what is it that exists? What is the cost of that? What's it going to cost me for? I guess we got a question here. I don't know if I can even see it. Nope. Okay, now if somebody had a question, please pipe in, put it in the chat if you can, because I think I can see the chat. Maybe not. Okay, so yeah, we got something in the chat. Okay, really nice. Put it in a brief and usable way. Could you give me your views on a quote that you don't get into a business you don't fully understand? So you mentioned that at the start, you're not a I'm not a programmer. Okay, so if you're getting a quote back, Omar, that you don't understand, I would definitely say it's not the team that you wanna go with. After you get the quote back, from this team, or specifically, what is the quote that you should be getting? Okay, they should definitely, on the basics, they should definitely give you okay, what is the team that's going to be involved? Okay. And when I say team is, okay, what are the specific um, specialties, that they're recommending, and for what parts? Okay, so in anything, depending on the software project, there's, like I said, there's going to be different parts. So you want to basically have them send you back, okay, so what are the parts, that you're seeing, and what are the languages or the specialities that you're recommending, and what are the levels, whether it be a brand, middle, a senior, one of the, a new developer, what are they recommending? Because there is, this is kind of one of the things, that we get into, one of probably we'll go into later more, but one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they get, like a junior developer to do certain projects that they have no business, doing. So you definitely want to have them be able to come back and show you in their code. Okay, so for these specific, and it's based off of your functionality. Okay, so I wanted all these things done. All right, so what do I need? Who's the best person for the job to build this stuff? Okay, and they should basically, off of that, be able to say, okay, you're going to need somebody that, for this, Python, 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 this is going to be in React. And this, depending on the complexity, you're going to need a middle, you're going to need a senior. Okay, to basically come up with the UI, UX, you're going to need, this person for, the actual architecture, you're going to need a project manager, that stuff. So it's definitely got to be based off of your brief, and then from that part is, give me an estimated time frame on my MVP. Those are the basics that you should be getting back in any single quote. If they're not giving you that stuff, or if it's just way too technical, honestly, Mar, it's, for me, it's not the right team for the job, because one of the most important things that's going to happen throughout this entire process when you're building a software is the communication you're going to have with the team. So if they're coming back with something that is super technical that you don't even understand which way it's going or how it's gonna work, then that's basically, for me, a big indication of, okay, that's how the communication is going to be going, and I'm not going to be able to understand it. So I hope that answered your question, Omar. Um, and then again, go back to the brief that you have uh, built out, and maybe there's some things on there that aren't as specific as kind of what we are talking about before. um, Another couple other things that you want to go through is, okay, what are the questions they're asking? Now in this part, it really gives you an idea of, if they don't come back with any questions, if you send them in a brief and they don't come back with anything, it could be that your brief is really, really good, but more often than not, it's just, okay, I'm just going to quote off of this thing. But there should be, they should be coming back, okay, are you open to open source options? Are you open to us finding different plugins or stuff that can work together? So they should definitely be coming back to you with certain questions. And if they're asking stuff that's tied to your overall objective, it's going to be obviously much more indication of you're going to find the right guy. Because if that person is asking questions that have to do with your overall goal, then you kind of know that, okay, they're going to have the buy-in, which is super important. Not just a transactional, okay, you needed this, I just built it for you, thanks, bye. But they're definitely looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, how can we build something that it exceeds your expectations, as far as what you're looking for this thing to do. Okay, now the third point, I think, let me just check the chat real fast here. Okay, yes, got it. Also, how can one verify the work done that was is what was promised? Midway timelines and target. Okay, Omar, this is a fantastic question, and this is coming down to point number 3. Okay, when you get a quote back, or even in your due diligence process, before you waste time, find out and have them share with you what is their organizational system. Now, what I say organizational system, now there's different methodologies that were built or that were created specifically for programming, whether it be Agile, Scrum. If you've heard of those terminologies or not, definitely, I mean, you can Google them. But what you want to make sure is, what is the communication system and what's their measuring system? Okay, the measuring system is super important. Inside of Codebay, we use the agile development, which basically just means that we plan, we have the overall structure, but we plan for 2 weeks, and then they work on all the coding, and every single 2 weeks with the client, we have to show them what was done. And it's coding, but this coding should actually show the functionalities and how it works. But internally, and this is something we share with the clients, is we have a measurement system. And this is something that a lot of times, this is somewhere where it goes wrong, because you as a client, you don't understand exactly, well, how much should somebody be coding? How should I get this? How much should I see at a certain time frame? And we love to, we want to trust people and want to believe that they're working and they're getting stuff done. But at the end of the day, it's, if you're not the expert, it's hard to know. So the way that we do it is, every single one of the I guess functionalities, or some sub functionalities, they get a number. Okay, it can be 1, 2, 3, 5, and that basically is going to let us know, as far as more or less, how much time, how difficult it is. Okay, and so at the end of the week, with the clients, we can say, okay, we got this much, our score was this. Okay, so you have whatever 2, 3 developers, and we have all these functionalities. Okay, they're in this order, each one gets a number. So what was programmer's 1 rating? How many points did he get at the end of the week? How many the other person points get at the end of the week? There's got to be a system of measuring. Milestones are important, but if you don't have a measurement on a minimum week-to-week basis, where they can basically say, okay, this is how much we got done, and this is, again, it's not a system that we invented, it's just something that we've implemented. Even at the software developer stage, he doesn't understand as far as if he's doing well, if he's not doing well. And you as a client, you can't really guide the team, because a lot of times, and this is one of the biggest benefits to doing it this way, clients will want to make different adjustments as the process is going. And they say, okay, what if we build this new functionality? Okay, well, this is a way that as and as an agency, we can basically show them, okay, so to build this out, it's basically going to cost this many points. Okay, so they can say, okay, well, that's basically an extra week or an extra 2 weeks. And so you guys can really, you as a client can understand this stuff. So when you're with prospective agencies or programmers, ask them, okay, how do you organize? Okay, how often is the communication process? Okay, what is the communication process? Like, am I involved? Like, do I get to see, exactly what's been done? How do I know what, at this, if it's a weekly, bi-weekly, or even if it's daily, like we do with certain clients, like how can we be sure exactly what, how much has gotten done? Too many times, we've seen, clients that, have come to us after working in different places, with different agencies. It just extends, and extends and extends. Well, you first told me 6 months, and now it's 8 months, and now you're telling me it's going to be another 3 more months. And you, as the client, you don't want to be on top, and you've got other things to do, but it's their job. You need to make sure with them is, okay, how are you organizing? What is the communication going to be with who, when, and how do I know exactly what's gotten done? And again, like it's got to be very cut and dry. There can't be, yeah, we're just going to meet once a week and we'll tell you. No, no, no. Like you got to show me exactly what's gotten done. Okay. What is the language level of programmers did they recommend? All right. So again, like I was saying earlier, there are different, there's so many different languages, but inside of the code, they should be telling you, okay, we are recommending that on the front end, it's done in this language. In the back end, it's done in this language. Definitely ask them why. Why are you recommending, this language? Is it just because that's the language that you know, or is that the best thing, for my project? Because if you put out there, three, four, look for 3, 4, 5, 6 quotes, you should start to see, commonalities between, different ones. And if there's like an outlier, somebody's recommending some different language, find out, okay, well, why are you recommending? And don't be afraid to go to the other ones and say, okay, why aren't you recommending this language? I'm not saying you're not, necessarily using them, but they are the experts, and they can definitely tell, well, I wouldn't use it because of this and this and this. Okay. And if you talk to, a couple, if you don't have that expert, that has, that you're confident expert in programming, it's a way that you can definitely go out there and, understand, okay, I'm, 3, 4, 5 of them are recommending the same language. And, the couple others that are recommending other languages, I can basically go back to them and say, okay, why don't you do it in this? And why don't you do that? And, they'll get back to you on saying, okay, why do we feel, this one is much more recommended? And you're basically kind of crowdsourcing, I guess you would say, the best option as far as, the language that they could use. Okay. Now, and this is another one, definitely ask them, how are they going to solve certain, issues? Yeah, a lot of times, like, they say, okay, well, this is the quote, this is what it's going to cost. But there's certain things, and you may not know exactly what they are. Don't be afraid to test out them a little bit. I'm not saying, okay, I'm asking you to go out there and start coding, but okay, how is this functionality going to be solved? Like, just make them send you like a brief description of what they're going to, what they're going to do. They should definitely be able to come back with a quick answer. If they're not coming back with a quick answer, it's because they've never done it before. And if they've never done it before and they didn't do any due diligence, I mean, there's a lot of times, a lot of, the projects we work on, there's, they're different, and there's certain parts of them that we've never done before. But, we definitely want to go out there and say, okay, well, who are, on our team or contacts or, the different forums, like, okay, who's done this? How do you solve it? Before, they come back, before we go with a quote. Because if we're just saying, okay, well, more or less this, that's when surprises come up, and you're not even getting, the right, quote, because they're not quoting off of something that they know how to do. Okay. And then, what you should expect from possible candidates, that's basically the part of, what I went into as far as, what should you actually see from them, inside of their quotation. Okay, so again, they should definitely be they should definitely have what is the language is for the different, functionalities. Um, what are the level of programmers, that they're recommending for the different functionalities, and a general time frame as far as getting the thing done, start to finish. That's like a minimum you should see. But as far as to make sure how you're going to find that right person, ask them the different questions. Don't be afraid as well. Ask them for um, their references, and call the references. Like, don't just say, what else have you done? Which, again, like, we get this all the time. Hey, what else have you done? And show me some stuff, or show me, some screenshots, which is great. We can definitely, show them. But there's nothing, better from a client standpoint to say, okay, can you send me off, you know, 3 different clients that you worked? I don't even care if they're in different, um, it had nothing to do with what you're trying to get built. This is probably the best thing that you can do, to say, okay, man, I can call them up and call these people up. How was your relationship? How was the communication? Did they get everything done on time? Was there anything, that surprised you about, these guys, in a good way, in a bad way? So definitely, go through those, after, you've gone out and you've filtered it down to probably, 2 or 3 options. That's something I would just do with those 2 or 3 to basically limit it down to 1. Okay. Now, if I don't know if you, from this part, any other questions, feel free to pipe in. Okay, but there's basically 3 things, 3 probably the biggest errors that we see when somebody's trying to go out there and find, a programmer, or a dev team. Obviously, at the end of the day, I understand you're looking for, the best deal. You're looking for, to get it done quick. But probably the one of the the things that we see happen all the time is, um, you hire a good programmer, but it's not his specialty. Maybe he's got the free time. He can definitely do it, but, like, try to definitely find a team that has experience, whether it be, okay, mobile apps. Well, they've done quite a few mobile apps. Web applications. Okay, well, they've done quite a few web applications. Give me examples of different work that you've done in the past. And and that's going to make sure that you're not hiring, again, somebody that could be great and do a really good job for you for something else, but it's basically getting the wrong person, for the job that you have. So definitely, go off of experience, because every single time, yeah, we have to do something. If we haven't done it before, there's a definite learning curve, and you want to try to reduce down as much as you possibly can that learning curve, because at the end of the day, like, you want to pay them for coding, not necessarily learning. Okay. Another one of the biggest mistakes that we've seen, and this is something that I talked on earlier, is trying to get one developer, or 2 developers, to do something that is much more complex, and expecting them to basically handle everything from start to finish. Now, you have to understand that you know developers, depending on their speciality, that's what they're good at. So, if you're expecting, like, a developer, okay, design, my web application. If he's a coder, he could be the greatest coder, in the world. He doesn't understand anything about user experience. And the issue that happens so many times is, even good coders or great coders, they want to make the client happy. They want to make sure that okay, yeah, I can do that for you. but that's not their area of expertise. So, you're basically, putting that person in a position where you're not going to get the best, product, for that stage. So don't, expect that, depending, again, it all, it depends on, what your overall project is, but that they're going to be able to do everything. Okay. And then the last thing is, no plan for measurement, for measuring advancements. And that's, something that, I talked about in the other slide of that, they just basically say, okay, let's just start coding and see, what happens. Um, that's one of the biggest, ways that, projects can go sideways because, if you're, saying, 6 months, okay, well then, that's got to come from, some sort of experience. Um, but again, it's not exact. So if you're not, measuring on, a daily and a weekly basis, if they're not, showing you, okay, so we have a cut and dry way to measure progress, then, you as the owner of the project, um, you have no way to plan. You can't say, okay, well, um, I'm going to launch this at this time. I'm going to do the communication for the launch, all this other stuff, because I can see that, there's a clear way of measuring. Is there going to be a margin of error? Yeah, of course there is. Whether it be, the complexity of certain functionalities, or even, how much, somebody's going to be, doing a week. But again, it's better than nothing. So make sure whoever you're working with, have them, show you. They should have a system of, internally, where this is all being documented. If they have a software, we use, software internally, even better. Like, that way you can basically ensure, okay, so I can be ensured that, things are going to be moving along, and I know exactly, more or less, the time frame. Okay. So again, this is basically, if you have, any other question, this is the end of the presentation. I hope, the information, was useful. It can definitely, help you out in your next projects. Again, like I said, I am not a technical, guy, and I know that I need, technical people. But it all comes down to making sure you have the right people, the right team, and a system that's set up for, communication. If you have that stuff clear, you're definitely gonna, have success with, these projects. We a lot of our clients that come to us is because they've worked with, somebody else, and I don't want to talk, bad, but a lot of times, software developers are really good just at software development. They're not necessarily great at the organizational, part of it, or the communicational part of it. So I'm not trying to say, scare anybody off, because there's definitely a lot of, awesome, options out there. But, do your due diligence, and as well, just to end this off, if you have like any additional questions, want to get in touch with, us, for basically being here, we can give you a free strategy session. It'll be with one of our top technical guys, not necessarily me. So you can explain and ask any questions, and we'll do our best to guide you as far as, what are languages that would be recommended. What's a general idea of, who you would need on your team for a project. So, feel free, go to the website and, fill in your information. We'll set up a free strategy session for you. There's no obligation, whatsoever. All right. So I thank you a lot for your time. We had a little mix up, with the hour when we scheduled it. So that was an issue, and we had a little technical issues at the beginning, but hey, thank you, and best of luck with, your next projects, your businesses, and everything. All right. Well, take care. And hopefully, if you need anything, we'll be in touch.